Chelsea Football Club have just signed Maxence Lacroix earlier on today. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on Chelsea's transfer window in general, as well as what I think is going on this summer that's totally different to previous summers. So first of all, if you guys don't know, I'm a Chelsea fan and this is my first Chelsea video. So like I said, after the World Cup, I was going to try to make some Chelsea videos, especially now during the transfer window season, because now is one of the busiest times of the year. It's a time where a lot of transfers take place across Europe and across the world in general. So yeah, and Chelsea are always one of the most busy teams in the transfer window. Year in, year out, every single year, Chelsea are there selling a lot of players and signing a lot of players as well, for that matter. So in terms of Maxence Lacroix, obviously Chelsea signed Morgan Rogers as well and Marco Palestra just over a month ago, but I didn't do videos on those two players. I'll give my thoughts on them as well, but I want to start off talking about Maxence Lacroix first. So Chelsea have been crying out for a top centre-back next to Levi Colwill for years, and this is because the Chelsea centre-backs, or the centre-backs that Chelsea have at their disposal, are nowhere near the level required when you look at the quality that they have on the ball, as well as when it comes to their defending. I did an Instagram post earlier on my personal Instagram, and I said that when it comes to winning their duels, when it comes to their positional awareness, when it comes to not making mistakes and not gifting teams goals for fun, when it comes to dominating your own area, dominating the defensive side of things, dominating your box, Chelsea centre-backs haven't done a good job at that over the years. Disasi, Badiashile, Tosin, Fofana, as well as Trevor Chalobah, I have maintained this for at least the last 2 years, that none of those 5 centre-backs are good enough to play next to Levi Colwill if Chelsea want to reach the top of the mountain, and if Chelsea want to get back to operating in a serious manner, back to reaching the top of the mountain, and back to showing some level of ambition in terms of actually wanting to compete, as well as winning the most important and major trophies such as the Premier League and the Champions League in particular. So if Chelsea do want to get back to that level, if Chelsea do want to go toe-to-toe with the biggest teams in the world, such as Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, etc., you get the gist. PSG, who have just won back-to-back Champions Leagues, Chelsea needed a much more established top-level caliber to play next to Levi Colwill. Now, am I saying that Maxence Lacroix is, the creme de la creme of centre-backs and the best centre-back in the world? Absolutely not. Are there better centre-backs? Yes, like Gabriel, Saliba, Bastoni, Schlotterbeck, etc. There's more established and better centre-backs than Maxence Lacroix. However, Maxence Lacroix, for me, in my personal opinion, is one of the most sought after, most, respected, most consistent, as well as reliable centre-backs in the Premier League. If we're just sticking to the Premier League, I've got the stats here in front of me from Who Scored. I'm going to credit Who Scored. It says club leader for interceptions, 45. So he had the most interceptions in the Premier League. The most clearances in the Premier League last season at Crystal Palace with 252. He won the most aerial duels, and Chelsea centre-backs couldn't win any aerial duels to save their lives, especially Tosin and Trevor Chalobah in particular. He won 119 aerial duels, which was the most out of every centre-back in the Premier League. And he had the highest Who Scored rating, if we're just focusing on Who Scored, at 7.03, which is way above average. So it goes to show you, according to Who Scored at least, if we're just focusing on this particular page, who's really good for stats, Maxence Lacroix is levels, and I mean stratospheres, above the 5 centre-backs that I mentioned, Disasi, Badiashile, Chalobah, Tosin, as well as Wesley Fofana, who for me, personally, Wesley Fofana has been a massive disappointment. Chelsea signed him for 80 million, I believe, 4 years ago. It was one of the first signings that Bluecom made, and it hasn't worked out. It's been really disappointing so far. So, yeah, look, Chelsea definitely needs needed a better centre-backs to play next to Levi Colwill, who was one of the best on-ball playing centre-backs when it comes to breaking the lines and passing from the back. He's really good at doing that, and is also a really solid defender. This is a really good duo in terms of Levi Colwill and Maxence Lacroix as well. Maxence Lacroix is somebody who is a leader. Crystal Palace fans respect him a lot because of how much leadership qualities he had. He's really good at winning his aerial duels. He doesn't really get caught out of position too many times. Yes, sometimes he makes mistakes. I mean, which centre-back doesn't make mistakes? Even the best in history, such as Maldini, Beckenbauer, Atrexa, have made mistakes as well. So, yeah, but he doesn't make as many mistakes frequently compared to like Trevor Chalobah, for example, or Tosin, who last season I can name you 3-4 mistakes from the top of my head that they made, especially against Leeds and Sunderland. So yeah, ultimately Maxence Lacroix is a much better player than the 5 centre-backs that I mentioned. Chelsea's defense will certainly be stronger next season, without a doubt. Lacroix is a respectable centre-back. He's not, up there on the same level as William Saliba or Gabriel from Arsenal, for example, because those two are insanely good centre-backs, but he's still a top centre-back nonetheless. And I think Chelsea's defense will be stronger next season. It was one of the weakest points last season. Chelsea leaked in, I believe, over 50 Premier League goals. I haven't got the stats ahead of me, but if I had to guess, I think it was definitely over 50 Premier League goals that Chelsea conceded last season. So really good signing, absolutely. Let's move on to Morgan Rogers a little bit. I want to keep Morgan Rogers and Palestra slightly shorter. And now, the first thing that we have to say surrounding Morgan Rogers is that Chelsea significantly overpaid. 170 million for a player of his quality is a massive overpay. Like, don't get me wrong, Morgan Rogers is a really good player, and he hasn't even reached his full potential, this ceiling yet. He's still got room for development, room for improvement. He's not the finished article, the finished product. However, at the end of the day, paying 170 million pounds for him and breaking the British transfer record is too much. I believe it's either him or Isak, but either way, it's one of the most expensive signings in Premier League history. Definitely top 2 or top 3. Like I said, massively overpaid. However, I can see why Chelsea really wanted to sign Morgan Rogers, because Alejandro Garnacho and Jamie Gittins, respectfully, are nowhere near good enough to play for Chelsea Football Club, especially Garnacho. We've seen how Garnacho's been in the Premier League. No Chelsea fan wanted to sign Garnacho last summer. Everybody knew that he was inevitably going to flop. However, unfortunately, Paul Winstanley and Lord Stewart didn't smell the coffee. They still signed him, and it didn't work out. Now we've sent him to Aston Villa on loan this season with basically an obligation to buy, because the add-ons and the finances are very easy to reach, the details. I think he only has to play a certain amount of games or feature in a certain amount of games for the contract to become an obligation. So look, at the end of the day, Garnacho was nowhere near good enough. Gittins was really disappointing in his first season in the Premier League. Morgan Rogers is a player who's a really good ball carrier from deep. He can get the ball from example, 25-30 meters away from his own goal, or yards, however you want to say, from his own goal, and then dribble past five players like it's nothing. So he's a really good ball carrier, similar to Mateo Kovacic. He can score goals, he can assist, his decision making is really good. What I mean by he still has more room to grow in order to go to the next level is being more consistent, because sometimes he was really inconsistent. He was in and out of games. Sometimes he was man of the match, and then the next game he was nowhere to be seen. So he needs to be more consistent. He needs to get more goals and more assists. However, I think Morgan Rogers is one of the best young players in the Premier League. He will only develop, especially under Xabi Alonso, because Xabi Alonso is a manager who knows how to get the best out of his midfielders, like he did with Maza, the Algerian international, who was one of Algeria's best players in the World Cup. So at the end of the day, Alonso was one of the best midfielders in his generation, and he knows how to get the best out of midfielders. So I think Morgan Rogers will only improve, especially under Xabi Alonso, who, like I said, knows how to coach midfielders. He was a great midfielder himself when he was a player. So I can only see Morgan Rogers improving and, you know, taking steps in the right direction, shall we say, year by year, and then instantly become one of Chelsea's most important, most influential players as soon as the season starts in the next month or so. So I think it's going to hit the ground running, especially under Xabi Alonso. And then 20 with Marco Palestra, because these are the 3 signings that Chelsea have made so far, but there's obviously more to come. More outgoings, more incomings. Chelsea's business is nowhere near finished. In terms of Palestra won the Serie A Defender of the Season. He's really good at 1v1 duels. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I've watched Cagliari every single game. I'm not going to pretend that, you know, I was watching Palestra week in and week out, because I wasn't. When I watch Serie A, I do watch a lot of Serie A, but when I do, it's mostly like the big 6, like Napoli, Roma, Juventus, Inter, Milan, Etrexa. You get the gist. But Palestra, from everything that I know, again, I'm not an expert. I didn't watch every single Cagliari game because he was at Cagliari on loan. He's really good at 1v1 defending. He's superb at crossing. Like, his crosses remind me a little bit of Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Not on the same level, but similarly to those 2 players. He's really good at defending, again, 1v1 duels. He can overlap. He can also sometimes tack in midfield, although that's not his strongest point. He can tack in midfield from time to time. So again, I'm really happy with the 3 signings that Chelsea have made so far. I think there's definitely been a change of strategy, because if you guys don't know, you guys definitely don't know, because this is my first time talking about Chelsea on YouTube. But you guys that follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Etrexa, know that I've been very critical of Bluco over the last 4 years. And I'm still not backing them, because I need to see them make the right decisions for a prolonged period of time, for at least 3 years, and win big trophies during that time period, in order for me to actually, you know, back Bluco, because I'm still Bluco out, obviously. Like, just because they're having a really good summer so far doesn't mean that they're going to have my full support, especially when taking into account all the mistakes that they did during the last 4 years. However, they're definitely not signing as many young players. They're selling much more deadwood, and the most important thing is that the players that are coming in are elevating the team, especially the starting 11, and taking it to the next level. My main issue with Bluco over the last 4 years has been that they only sign players, young players, because they have a high resale value, right? They sign young players that never play. We've seen Angelo, we've seen Casade, we've seen Chukwuemeka, Angelo, Kellyman, so many other players that, you know, I can think of that barely played for the first team. So this time they're showing much more ambition. They're signing much more ready-made players who can come in and help the first team immediately, unlike the previous signings that they made. And it's evident that, unlike previous managers, this time around they're actually backing Xabi Alonso. So keep this up, Luca. That's my message to you. Do not stop now. Sell all the players that we don't need, like Tosin and Disasi and Badiashile, Pedro Neto, Lavia, because he hasn't stayed healthy to save his life for the last 3 years. Keep taking this team to the next level, right? Keep making the right decisions every single summer, not just this summer. Continue this. Keep this up for the next, I don't know, however many years, as long as you remain Chelsea's owners, right? Keep making the right decisions and look to actually win major honors. Look, be serious, act in a serious manner, be ambitious, and win us major trophies. So far, so good in the transfer window. Again, Palestra, Morgan Rogers, as well as Maxence Lacroix are really good signings. And they're ready to help the first team immediately, all 3 of them. But job's not finished. Keep up the good work, Bluco. Don't stop now. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all 3 players that they've signed. Chelsea have also sold a lot of players and will continue to sell a lot of players that aren't good enough. Like Delap, I want Neto to be sold. Garnacho's already gone. the centre backs that I mentioned, most of them have to go. Like there's a lot, and even more. There's a lot of debt with the Blue have signed over the last 4 years or so that they need to sell. So yeah, job's not finished. More work needs to be done, but there's definitely been a change in strategy, and it seems like from the outside looking in, at least they're backing Xabi Alonso. So again, Blue, keep this up and do not stop. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of my thoughts. Even if you aren't, sorry about the camera. Even if you aren't Chelsea fans, or if you are Chelsea fans, let me know your thoughts on Chelsea's transfer window so far. Again, it's nowhere near finished. It finishes on the 1st of September, but let me know your thoughts. So far, so good. But again, job's not finished. There's much more that needs to be done, both in terms of incomings and outgoings, in order to take this team to the next level. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of my comments. Thank you for listening, and take care.